Alrighty, welcome back everybody. We're in the last area of the pre-security module, so we're starting Windows Fundamentals. This is Windows Fundamentals 1, so in part 1, we'll start our journey learning about the Windows desktop, the NTFS file system, UAC, the control panel, and more. So let's take about 30 minutes, and it's all info. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick this guy off. So we're going to start our machine there. That will get us there. I don't know if we need an attack box in this or not. I'm going to start it just in case. We'll figure that out, but it's starting a Windows machine. So the Windows operating system is a complex product with many system files, utilities, settings, features, etc. This module will attempt to provide a general overview of just a handful of what makes up the Windows operating system, navigate the user interface, make changes to the system, etc. And this content is aimed at those who wish to understand and use the Windows OS on a more comfortable level. So sweet. Tells us to do the start. We already did that, so we're just waiting. You can access it via remote desktop. Once your IP does come up, I'm assuming it'll just come up here. So if not, cool. So we're going to go ahead and complete that. I'll come back once it's actually up and running. So Windows additions. Oh boy, this is a whole history lesson, it looks like here. Let's see, the Windows operating system has had a long history dating back to 1985, and currently it's the most dominant operating system in both home use and corporate networks. Because of this, Windows has always been targeted by hackers and malware writers. And that just makes sense. You have the most amount of targets. Why not? Windows XP was a popular version of Windows and had a long running. Microsoft had announced Windows Vista, which was a complete overhaul of the Windows operating system. There were many issues with Vista and it wasn't well received by Windows users. It was quickly phased out. When Microsoft announced the end of life date for Windows XP, many customers panicked. Corporations, hospitals, etc., scrambled and tested the next viable Windows version, which was Windows 7, against other hardware and devices. So then vendors had to work against the clock to ensure their products worked with Windows 7 for their customers, and they couldn't. Their customers had to break the agreement and find another vendor that upgraded the products to work with Windows 7. It was a nightmare for many, and Microsoft took note of it. So Windows 7, as quickly as it was released, soon after was marked with end of support date. Then Windows 8.x came and left, and it was short-lived like Vista. Then Windows 10 arrived. This module is a little bit dated. So it's saying that Windows 10 is the current Windows operating system versions for desktop computers. They're currently on Windows 11, but just go through it. Yeah, it does say down here, like the retirement dates for Windows 10 have probably come up. I mean, that's just part of the Windows life cycle. It really is. They only support um, their versions for so long. They're selling a product, okay? Even if you hate it, most of the world uses it, so oh well. It says that Windows 10 came in two flavors, Home and Pro. You can click here to read the differences. I mean, there's so many different versions of Windows. You have the long-term servicing channel ones. You have the education, Home, Pro, Enterprise. If you're in a normal organization, quote unquote normal organization, you're probably going to have enterprise licenses because there's a lot of features in the enterprise license set that you don't get in home, especially when it comes to Active Directory and things like that. Pro kind of gives you some of those, but yeah, if you're using Windows for work, typically it's an enterprise license. We're not really talking about servers, but they also have a lot of operating systems for servers. So this references 2019. There are more current ones. I'm recording this in 2025. Yes, we have had more recent releases of Windows Server since 2019. Um, just going through normal stuff. And it looks like we do have this guy up and running now. So looks like did not need the attack box, but only need to start that machine. So cool. What is this? So what encryption can you enable on Pro for questions that you can't enable on Home? I'm pretty sure you can find that if you click here. If you worked in an enterprise setting, You probably already know what this is. Let's see if it will actually say it. Oh, and we're at Windows 11 now. Uh, try and see if there's a little matrix saying what the feature sets are between them. Looking to Copilot PCs, of course. Welcome to Windows. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and put down, it's a BitLocker encryption. That is kind of Windows native built-in encryption set that you can use. It makes it so that there's any issue, or if you if somebody steals an asset, and if they're trying to mess with the hard drive or whatever, the hard drive should have BitLocker encryption on it, so they'll need a key to actually access the data on there. Not going to get too deep into that, but just know that Microsoft offers an encryption solution for hard drives through the Windows infrastructure, and it's called BitLocker. You're more than welcome to Google about that. The administration of it's not difficult at all. You can do it through GPOs or through MDM solutions and things like that. So kudos for Microsoft for making it easy to administer. It's not foolproof, but it is a good solution. So moving on to task 3, which is the desktop, also known as the GUI. So it's a screen that welcomes you once you log into Windows 10 machine. So we got that right over here. Traditionally, you need to pass the login screen first. The login screen is where you need to enter a valid account credentials, so username or password. Nowadays, it might be Windows Hello, so it might be using biometrics, but we're just talking about the, the actual start screen and everything over here. So, excuse me. We have a screenshot here, and it's going to show the desktop, the start menu, the search bar, the task view, which is this little guy over here, the actual task bar, which is this. We have toolbars over here, and then we have the notification area. Windows 11 has changed it up just a little bit as it centered everything, going more towards more like a Mac OS interface. So these all are pretty much still where they're at, but the start, the search, what's it, task view, taskbar, all that's centered in the middle. I mean, it's nothing crazy. They just moved it to the middle. Then we're going into kind of looks like actual definitions. We're talking about the desktop. So this is your desktop, everybody. All this stuff right here. You can have shortcuts on there. Um, you can save stuff. You can right click. You can change your, display settings. You can personalize things. So display settings, that's where you can change, maybe the resolution of your monitor. Maybe you want to enable HDR, whatever. That's all there. The personalization is more the background and what images are there. The start menu, when we click on that, we'll have quick start things. Okay, so this is Windows Server. Cool. As these things installed on it for the apps, the folder structure, that just pops out. That way, we have shortcuts to documents, pictures, settings, power. All right. If you've ever messed around with Windows, it's fairly similar regardless of what version that it's really going for. All right. Boom, recently added, all this other stuff. Pin to start with the right click. Let's see. All right, so ending that, going into the taskbar. If you right click on taskbar, you can go to settings. You can, enable, add more things to the taskbar, lock it so, it doesn't go. Task manager you can get from here. Let's see, the notification area down there. All right. So it's fairly basic overview. We're I'm like, I can't really go too deep into how to operate basic Windows. If you haven't been on a Windows machine, I guess play around in the attack box here, but Windows is Windows. It's in so many places. So let's go ahead and try to answer these questions. Which selection will hide or disable the search box? So for right here, it's saying, you know, what what can remove that? I'm pretty sure it's going to be something like hidden. Bow. There we go. All right. Which selections will hide or disable the task view button? Uh, I'm pretty sure it explained it in all of here. Please read through this. Of course, the good people at TryHackMe put in good work for that. Let's see. Sometimes I just do this and try having questions. You know, they give you the letters or the number of letters, and you can kind of, you know, which selection will hide or disable the task view button? Task view button right here is probably going to be the second, third, and fourth. So to hide or disable it, hide might be one. I'm going to go with show. So show task view button. Pow. Okay. So besides clock and network, what other icon is visible in the notification area? So if we look right down here, so we have clock, we have network, and this guy right here, which I believe, do they call it Action Center in this version? Let's see, did it actually give us that, or is it kind of just, yeah? What does the hint say? Try right clicking the icon. Yep, Action Center. There we go. If you ever had to do the A+ for CompT or anything like that, yeah, this is throwing you right back into that. What is the right nomenclature? What Microsoft is defining things. All right, going into the file system. So Windows, at least modern Windows, uses NTFS, which is New Technology File System. All right, it has a good amount of pros, especially compared to the previous file systems, which it's going to say. We go over FAT16, FAT32. FAT stands for File Allocation Table. And there's also HPFS, which is High Performance File System. If you're running Windows, it's probably going to be on NTFS though, all right? So FAT partitions are still used today. I mean, micro SDs, USBs, things like that. You'll see it be like FAT32 and things. But NTFS does have a good amount of pros, as I said earlier. It's known as a journaling file system. In case of a failure, the file system can automatically repair the folders files on the disk using information stored in a log file, which FAT file systems do not do. So it's it has it, it has the capability to repair itself, which is very useful when somebody has all their personal photos on a hard drive. All right. So NTFS addresses many limitations of previous file systems, such as supports files larger than 4 gigabytes. That might sound crazy nowadays because, well, phones rocking, 256. You buy a, PlayStation has like a terabyte in it, and just the cost of storage now does not seem to be very much compared to what it was. But 4 gigabytes at one point was an incredible amount to think of on a not only a hard drive but like a USB or a micro SD or even a regular SD card. Getting up to that was crazy. All right, so you can also set specific permissions on folders and files, which is very important when you're trying to administer um, workstations in an enterprise. You definitely don't want everybody to have the ability to do whatever they want to any folder and file on a hard drive, such as deleting things in system critical files, or just having a regular user have the ability to be installing software that their enterprise doesn't want. So having file permissions and folder permissions is very important. Um, it does folder and file compression, great, and does encryption. So it does encryption file system, also known as EFS. So it does go into here, and it says we can right click, go to properties, and then we're gonna hit, that is not what I wanted. Hold on. Go to File Explorer, go to this PC, we're gonna right click properties on the hard drive, and there we go. Our local disk, which is the C drive, And this one, it is NTFS, so cool. And it is only allocated a little bit under 20 gigs. Remember, these are virtual machines, so no need for it to get a full like 256 gig tera, uh, as you go up. No need for all that. Let's see, there's a link to read Microsoft's official documentation on FAT, uh, high performance file systems, and NTFS. You can click on it there. Generally speaking, on NTFS volumes, you can set permissions to grant or deny access to files and folders, as we talked about earlier. The built-in permissions are full control, modify, read, and execute. This folder contents, read and write. Here's a table that goes over all this. When you do have, let's see if we can get something here. So, like, let's just go to, yeah, this Amazon folder right here in program files. If we go over to security, we'll see all these groups and usernames. It'll say what the object is. We're talking about the Amazon folder that's located in the program files of the C drive. And if you look, here are those permissions as well as special permissions. But you have things for full control, nobody set for allow or deny. For modify, nobody set for that. We do have entries in read and execute to allow. This folder contents to allow, or else we won't be able to see it. And then to read, but nobody's allowed to write or special permissions. That's for the group of all application packages. Now, admins, if we click on that, on this workstation, which is WinFun 1.1, we have a group and it's THM-TAC WinFun1/administrators. Administrators are allowed to do full control, modify, read, execute. This folder contents, read, write. They don't have anything for special permissions defined, but they can pretty much do whatever. I mean, they can read all the contents, they can write whatever they want, they can modify, they can give other people permission as well. And then when we go over to users, if you notice they don't have that full control or modify, they can't even write into this folder. So they can't be making new things in there, but they can read, they can execute from it. So different groups, different permissions. It's very important. All right. So how can you view? Yep. So we just went over that. Users, refer to it. Another feature of NTFS is alternate data streams, which is ADS, and it's a file attribute specific to Windows NTFS. So every file has at least one data stream. And over here it has this $, then data, and ADS allows files to contain more than one stream of data. So natively, Windows Explorer doesn't display ADS to the user, but there are third-party executables that can be used to view this data, but PowerShell gives you the ability to view it. So from a security perspective, malware writers have used ADS to hide data, and not all of its uses are malicious. For example, when you download a file from the internet, there are identifiers ran to the ADS to identify that the file was downloaded from the internet. To learn more about ADS, refer to the following link from Malwarebytes here. And if you wish to interact with ADS, they have it on the Advent of Cyber 2 module on day 21. Cool. If you're interested more in that, and go ahead, jump over there, learn a little bit more. So what is the meaning of NTFS? If we remember, is that new file or new technology file system. New technology file system. Bam. Cool. We are now moving on to task 5. All right. So task 5 is talking about the Windows/System32 folders. So the Windows folder is C/Windows, and it's traditionally known as folder which contains the Windows operating system. So the folder doesn't have to reside on the C drive. It can, be in a D drive, whatever drive partition that you identify that it should be in. But by default, it is in C. So C/Windows. So this is where environmental variables, more specifically system environmental variables, come into play. And though not discussed yet, the system environmental variable for the Windows directory is %, which when I look at it, I know it's not the same as asterisk wildcard, but in my head, I just go to wildcard when I'm thinking Windows. So it's the %, win dir %, all right? So per Microsoft, Environmental variables store information about the operating system environment. This information includes details such as the operating system path, the number of processors used by the operating system, and the location of temporary folders. All right. And there are many folders within the Windows folders. So over in the screenshot, it keeps on going. It keeps on going. You got drivers, cursors, boot stuff, app readiness, app patch. Um, then if you go into actual system 32, then we're going even further. All right. So the System 32 folder holds the important files that are critical for the operating system, and you should proceed with extreme caution when interacting with this folder. Accidentally deleting any files or folders within System 32 can render the operating system inoperable. You can read more about that over here. And let's see, many of the tools that I will be covering in the Windows Fundamental series reside within the System 32 folder. That's good to know. Um, when they're talking about, proceed with extreme caution with interacting, that's why we like being able to have file permissions and folder permissions so that we're not allowing Joe Schmo to be able to go in there, just select every folder there and hit the delete key and then say, oh no, I can't work for the rest of the day. All right, so let's answer the following question. What is the system variable for the Windows folder? We went over that. That was this guy right here, the one with percentage sign, Winder, percentage sign. I don't know why my webcam keeps going in and out. I'll figure that out later. All right, next up, user accounts, profiles, and permissions. So we're going to be talking about UAC and all fun stuff, or hopefully in this one. If not, it's the next one. Okay, UAC is the next one. So we're just talking about user accounts, profiles, and permissions. We already kind of dipped into this. So in typical Windows systems, you have administrators and you have the users. Remember when we were looking at the file system or the properties of the folder earlier, and the administrator can do a whole bunch more than the user? There you go. So administrators can make change to the system. They can add users, delete users, modify groups, modify settings on the system, while standard users can only make changes to folders attributed to the user, such as their regular user profile. So when you log into Windows, like for the first time, Windows makes you a whole user profile, and that's where they can kind of store locally just their own things there. But they can't be messing with other users' stuff. An admin could. So it's saying we are currently logged in as an administrator. So it's going to go over a couple different ways to tell us that we're an admin. So it says, hey, click on Start Menu, then do Other User. Then we can click here. Boom. Hey, local account of TryHackMe. Cool. Other users we can add onto that. Bam, bam, bam. If you're not an admin, you're not going to see that. All right. So click on the local user account, and we can change the account type, and we can remove it. And if we click on the account type, we can promote this local account, which is a standard user, up to an administrator if we want. And when it says local account, it just means it's on this machine, so it's not a domain account. We're not getting into Active Directory here, but if you are in an enterprise, typically you will be logging onto a domain account versus local accounts. All right. Just going over the user profile creation, mentioned that earlier. Bam. Yep, talking about creating the user profile once logged in. Yes, each user profile will have the same folders, which is desktop, documents, downloads, music, pictures. Cool. Then it gives another way to do it, which you can do run then lusr mgr.msc. That's typically how I would go through it, rather than doing this search for it. But hey, that's all right. All right, so let's go ahead and answer these questions. But, so what's the name of the other user account? That's not going to fit there. So there's a couple ways to get there. We are going to do this. So this is the L user management piece, and we're going to go into users, and here we go. We have a user account, so we got some default ones. but we have TryHackMe Billy right here. So TryHackMe Billy, there we go. What groups is this user a member of? So if we go into groups, we can start picking and choosing, doing things like that. Or because we know we're only looking at one, we can right click, we can go to properties, we can go to member of, and we have 2 entries here, remote desktop users and users. And that seems to be appropriate. So remote desktop users, comma, users. Bam. All right. And what built-in account is for guest access to the computer? So we can go close this window. We have our accounts right here. They're in the user folder. Is it going to be administrator, the default account, the guest account, TryHackMe Billy, or the, oh Jesus, what is WDAG? I'm forgetting what that acronym is. Going to be Windows something utility account. And actually, let's see, what is this even for? Because it does have a description right here. So it is a user account managed used by the system for Windows. It's cut off. That's probably Defender. All right. So if we look at these 5, which one do we think is going to provide guest access? If you guessed guest, you congratulations, you got yourself a cookie right there. All right. And it says, what is the account description? Bu- 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 I'm assuming this is talking about TryHackMe Billy instead for the generic Windows descriptions of all these accounts. So we're not talking about the guest account here. We're talking about TryHackMe Billy, which is window money capital F one bam. Sweet. We are chugging along. If you guys need to take a break from this video, go ahead and pause it, but going strong. All right. So we're talking about UAC, which is user account control. UAC is incredibly important regardless of what operating system you're in. The main business use that it is fulfilling is extremely valuable. And this has to make, it is making sure that if a program needs to run at higher or elevated privileges than what somebody actually has, all right? So if I'm regular Joe Schmo and if I launch an EXE and if the EXE is running and it says you're a regular user, in Windows, user account control will pop up and it'll say, all right, I'm going to give you a chance. You need to log in with an actual account that has the proper privileges to run an exe in your environment. And if you can do it, cool. If you can, log in as an admin or, your help desk, remote send, whatever, and provides those, cool, then it will run. But if not, then it just says, okay, nope, hey, you're a user, you try to do an admin action. No, you're not allowed to do that. All right. I'm pretty sure everyone's seen it. All right. If you've ever been in Windows and if you've ever been clicking around, it's the little, username, password prompt, and that is what user account control will provide. All right. I'm pretty sure they go into much better verbiage of how to explain that, but UAC control, I swear, if it's set up correctly in your environment, it makes life so much easier to manage. And if it's not, then it's just one of those things that you you have your permissions set up wrong in your environment. All right. Let's see, what are we doing though? Like let's get back into TryHackMe world. All right. So it's talking about how does UAC work. So when a user with account type administrator logs into a system, the current session doesn't run with elevated permissions. When it, excuse me, when an operation requiring higher level privileges needs to execute, the user will be prompted to confirm if they permit the operation to run. So let's look at the program on the account you're currently logged into, the built-in administrator account. So right click to view its properties. In the security tab, we can see the users groups. in their permission to this file, note that SARIN user is not listed. So I want to say this is talking about Wireshark. And if we right click, go to properties, security, we have system administrators and administrators. Users cannot run this. All right. Then it says log in as a standard user and try to install this program. To this, you can remote desktop into the machine as a standard user account. Note you have the username and password for the standard user. It's visible in, let me go and open that again. VR.msc. Okay. Yep. So saying if we log in as TryHackMe Billy with this password, and we try to run it, it won't. It will bring this up. And even on the desktop itself, if you look at the comparison between this right here, where we are logged in as an administrator, this icon does not have the little UAC shield. All right. And when you right click on it as well, this little weird shield that's blue and yellow, that has to do with elevated privileges. So even though we're logged in as an admin, as it was saying, our entire session is not elevated privileges. However, if we do click on it, we do have the option to run it at that. If you're a normal account, normal user account, it will have the shield, and then once you click on it, it's going to prompt for user account control, say, hey, you need to enter your password for this to go. After some time, if password is not entered, or it just disappears and doesn't install. So this feature reduces likelihood of malware successfully compromising your system. You can read more about it here if you want. So what does UAC mean? User account control. All right. If you guys want, you guys can log in as the other user. I'm just going to keep on trucking, all right? So settings and the control panel. So on a Windows system, the primary locations to make changes are the settings menu and the control panel. And for the longest time, the control panel was the go-to location to make system changes, such as adding a printer, installing a program, etc. But the settings menu was introduced in Windows 8, and the first Windows operating system that carried. Okay, it's talking about how Windows 8 was touchscreen focused when it came to design, and it's still available in Windows 10. Um, Same with 11. So we were talking about settings. We have. That's funny. Okay, not that app, not from the Microsoft Store. This. So we're in settings. Okay. So we have system, devices, all this stuff. And if you're on older ones, control panel. The thing is there are settings and control panel that are not exactly mirrored over in Windows settings. And you'll see that repeated through Microsoft products. All right. Microsoft will say this is the newest, latest, and greatest way to, upgrade what you previously had to do. Use it. The GUI looks nicer for it. Um, and then they'll forget some of the feature sets that came with it. Or maybe they know about it and they just don't want people to be accessing things. All right. We're going to go through control panel. We can change adapter settings. Um, this is saying if we do that in the settings area, it actually brings up Windows that's located in control panel settings. So it's just a link over there. So it's slightly annoying. I'm not gonna lie. Um, I do not like Windows settings, but that's just because when I really learned Windows, it wasn't there. So control panel, I feel a little bit more comfortable with. But that's not to say if I need something, I cannot not go to settings. Like it's just part of being in the operating system. All right, you should know the good stuff and the bad stuff. All right. So in the control panel, change the view to small icons and what is the last setting in the control panel view. So we're going to go over here. We're going to view by small icons. The last one is going to be Windows Defender Firewall. Bam. All right, cool. Next, task 9, we're on task manager. So the last subject that will be touched in this module is task manager. The task manager provides information about the applications and processes currently running on the system. Other information is also available, such as how much CPU and RAM are being utilized, which falls under performance. So you can access task manager by right-clicking the taskbar. So down here, and you can go to task manager. So let's go ahead and do that. And this doesn't really show a lot. So if you hit more details, then it becomes what the older task manager would always just bring up. So this is more useful. All right, so we get to look at processes, performance, users, so who's logged in, things like that, details. So we have the PID. So if you remember from the Linux stuff, all the process IDs, who's it running under, how much memory is being used, is UAC part of it, the services, which ones are running, which ones are stopped, um, processes, all these trees are pretty good. So right now we're using 59% of memory. So if you want to kind of, clean that up a little bit, we could say what's actually using the most memory. You can click on it, it will sort. Just pretty pretty basically it's a task manager. It's letting you know what's going on in your session. All right. So if something's bottlenecking, was it my CPU? Was it the memory? Did I cap out my bandwidth? What's going on? So not gonna dive too deep into there. There's a blog post over here that will let you give more detailed information about Task Manager. And what is a keyboard shortcut to open Task Manager is our question. For the longest time, I just did Control Delete, and then at the bottom, I'll hit Task Manager. It's Control Shift Escape. Uh, Windows shortcuts are a pain in the butt. They just are. So Control plus Shift plus Escape key. All right. So cool. That was that. I'm going to go ahead and in conclusion, so this was a generic overview of the Windows OS. There are intermediate advanced topics for each topic that was covered in here. So future modules, we're going to go over much more. Remember, we're still just in fundamentals. Windows has a ton of modules, and the more you know about it, the better it will be, at least for a career, if it's at least Windows oriented, which if you think when we looked at the career stuff, blue team, red team, you're probably going to run into Windows. It's fairly hard to avoid, but the more you know, the better. I hope you guys enjoy this video. I'm going to keep spamming this complete button until it actually goes through. Yep, there we go. So thank you all for joining me in this video. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Laters.